Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my efforts to improve the game that I made during my 30-day challenge, Beneath an Emerald Sky. In the last video, I talked about how I'd added this testing passage, which allowed us to, if we change the program so that it starts from this passage, automatically test the game and give statistics about how often each of the different characters wins the game. We talked about the change that I'd made to the initialize passage to allow that to happen, and now I'm going to continue talking about what happens in the testing passage. So we included initialize, so that sets up all the variables. Then we have a for loop that goes from 1 to 4. You notice that the variable used in the loop is $char, and you might recognize that. That is the variable used to determine which character the player has chosen in a normal run of the game. So we're going to test each of the 4 characters. The first thing we do is we set the relevant slot of the $wins array to 0. The reason we do that is because we're going to be incrementing this slot of the array every time that character wins the game, and if you start with an undefined value and then increment it, you don't get a number, and so you'll end up not generating an error. The program will properly run, but when you print out the results, you won't get a number. It'll say number NAN. So we need to set that to 0. Then we have another loop that goes from 1 to 20. In this case, we're using test Z, $test Z. Why don't we just use Z? Well, because we might use Z in the other passages which we're going to include in the course of this, and we don't want anything that happens in those other passages to interfere with this one or interact with it in a way that we don't want. So we use variables that we haven't used before. So instead of Z, we use test Z, and similarly we're going to use test Y down there. So it's 1 to 20 because for each character we're going to send them through the game 20 times. We print, run through, and then the number. We reset all the keywords, which is necessary, of course, because they have to start the game without any of the keywords triggered, otherwise the game won't behave as it would in a normal run of the game. We roll their attributes, include roll attributes. I won't go through that passage because we've done it before. It works exactly the same. We set $current, which is the variable that keeps track of what paragraph we're on, to J1 because that's the one that the game starts with. And then we run the game, which is include display and branching. Now we need to make some changes, surprisingly few changes actually, but we do need to make a few changes in display and branching. Essentially, if we're in a test run of the game, we don't want to print any choices for the player because there is no player. We're doing this automatically. So let's go through display and branching and have a look at that. So here's an example of a change. If Z equals 1, that's a continue button. If testing is defined, then we know that it's a test run of the game, and therefore we set current equal to this value from the paras array, which is the paragraphs, and then we include display and branching, i.e. loop back to this passage. If that's not the case, it's a normal run of the game, and we print the button, which when the player clicks it, will take them to that paragraph. Similarly, when we have choices, if testing is defined, we randomly choose from 1 to this value, which gives the number of choices. Then we change the paragraph to the relevant one based on that choice and loop back. Whereas if testing is not defined, i.e. it's a normal run of the game, then we print all the buttons and the player clicks which one they want. All of the other ones don't involve any player choice. They're all different types of branching based on randomness or keywords. And the only other change we need is that when we win, which is right down the bottom, when Z equals 11, If testing is defined, then we increment the relevant slot in the wins array. And after that, that is one run of the game. That is one test of the game. And that seems to be about all we have time for. So in my next video, I'll finish off the testing passage, and then we'll talk about the actual results of doing this testing. So I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.